Hi. Why am I holding my hands up like I did something wrong? Let's ignore that. Hi, my name is Maddie, and if you're new, welcome to my channel. You clicked on this video, so I'm assuming you already know, but I'm gonna be going through all the books that I want to read before 2024 is over. My end of the year TBR, if you will. I did this video last year, but it was back in October, so it just didn't really give me a whole lot of time to actually read the books that I put on the list. And I just saw Destiny do this video and it reminded me that this was something I wanted to do again this year. And I feel like doing it now when we are just halfway through the year is so much better than leaving it towards the end of the year. This way I feel like it's more of a mid-year check-in on just how I'm doing on my yearly TBR and to just see how I'm feeling. Like, do I really want to read the books that I said I wanted to at the beginning of the year, or have my thoughts changed? And what books weren't on my radar 6 months ago that are now? I feel like that was a lot of talking for a very self-explanatory video, so I'm just gonna get right into it. Starting off with my 24 books to read in 2024. I made this page in my reading journal and I also did a whole video on this. I don't know how well you can see from here, but it looks pretty empty. But actually I am exactly halfway through the list, so I have 12 books left. At this point, some of them might be more exciting to me than others, but I definitely still want to read all of them by the end of the year. First up is Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin, which, oh my gosh, this book feels very heavy. And this is also one of the books on this list that is less intriguing to me now than I feel like it was at the beginning of the year. I still want to read it because I've heard so many good things and I want to know what my opinion is, but it's just not one that I ever want to reach for. Plot-wise, I know very little. I think it's just about two friends who are developing a video game over the course of many years. I think that we are exploring their friendship, and then they also have relationships. I've heard that it's very sad. I don't really know why, but it's just a general fiction book, and that's the genre that I never really want to pick up because it seems the least interesting to me. So I don't know. I think I'm only gonna get to it when I force myself to really try and get through my 24 books, but I know it's one that once I finally get to it, I could totally fall in love with this. So I don't want to give up on it just yet. Then we have One for My Enemy by Olive Blake. I've never read a book by her and I wanted to put one on my list because I own a couple of her books and I've just heard really good things about her writing. And this one is, I think, a modern day retelling of Romeo and Juliet, except they are rival witch families in New York City. So out of all her books, this one definitely intrigues me the most. I feel like the plot sounds really interesting. Next is The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston, and same thing, I actually have not read anything by her and I have heard such amazing things about this one and The Dead Romantics. So I wanted to make sure that I finally got to this one because this is a 5-star for so many people and it sounds like something that I could really enjoy. Her books are all romance with a magical realism subplot. This one is about a woman who inherits her aunt's apartment when she passes. Her aunt always told her the apartment was magical and that sometimes it would slip 7 years into the past. So lo and behold, one day when she's in the apartment, it does slip 7 years in the past and there is some man who is living there. And somehow it's a romance between the two of them. I've heard amazing things. I've also heard that her books are very sad, which is part of the reason probably why I haven't picked it up yet, because I am intimidated by sad books. But I am genuinely very excited to get to this one. I think I'm saving it for the fall just because that's the vibes that I've heard it kind of gives off. And I actually just went to an event for her newest release a couple of nights ago, so I just got this book signed, which I feel like is a sign that I actually need to really read it soon. Then I have Legendborn by Tracy Dion, and this is a young adult fantasy that I heard so many good things about when it first came out. It was really having a moment on Book Talk, BookTube, and I just never got around to it. So I put it on my list to force myself to finally get to it, and it's another one that I'm interested in, but I've just never had the desire to pick it up yet. And at this point, there's already a second book out. I don't know if there's gonna be more, but I really need to get on it soon. Next, I have These Violent Delights by Chloe Gong, and this is another one where I have just always been really intrigued by Chloe Gong in general, and from what I've heard, this is the book to start with. I think that all of her books are young adult fantasy and they all seem to be somehow interconnected. This one sounds different from any other fantasy that I've read. I think it takes place in Shanghai. Yeah, Shanghai, 1926, and it's about two rival gangs, so it sounds very interesting, very different and unique, and I just really have to get to it. I'm gonna be saying that for every single book. Then we have Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo, which is an interesting one. This is the first book in a trilogy that in and of itself does not intrigue me that much, but it's the first series that takes place in the Grishaverse, which is where I think like 99% of Leigh Bardugo's books take place. And it's definitely one of those situations where you don't have to read this one in order to go into her next books. But I'm the type of person that does not want to miss out, so I feel like I have to at least give this one a chance before I just skip over to Six of Crows or her other ones. Six of Crows is the one that I'm really excited for, and that's the one that I think takes place kind of right after this one. And I feel like you never know, I could really fall in love with this one. Some people really like this trilogy and then other people really hate it and say you should just skip it. I'm going to at least attempt it before Six of Crows. So this is one that I want to get to soon because I want to be able to try out her writing, but I'm not really excited about this book itself. So it's kind of a weird situation. Then we have Babel, which I feel like I've talked about a ton because I'm very afraid to read this book. It's a standalone fantasy that takes place at Oxford, I think, and it follows the study of translation, and I've just heard that they use a ton of big words and it's just kind of hard to follow. People have to have a dictionary open, that sort of thing, so I have been intimidated by it, but I should be reading this one very soon. Ow! Oh! My foot's cramping. No! You know when you get that? It's almost like a Charlie horse in your foot. And for me, I have to stand up and it makes it feel better. Okay, no one asked and no one cares. Okay, next is Magnolia Parks, which I've been saying that I want to read this for years. I know, it's probably gotten annoying, but this is another one that I should be reading super soon. Maybe you can tell what kind of video that I've been filming, but this is obviously the first book in the very beloved Magnolia Parks universe, and I desperately want to love it, but I'm scared that I won't, so I've been putting it off. Next is The Prison Healer by Lynette Noni, and this is another fantasy series that I want to start. It's a young adult fantasy trilogy. Sarah Caroli is the first person that I heard talk about it, and she convinced me. I went out and bought it immediately. But here we are, I don't know how much later, and I obviously have not read it. Probably because I'm in the middle of so many series that I just won't let myself start a new one. But my goal is to finish some of the series that I'm in the middle of and eventually start some new ones. And once I do, this is one of the fantasy series that is at the very top of my list. Then we have this bad boy, which is Iron Flame, book 2 after Fourth Wing, which I have been putting off since the day it came out because it is just so thick and I've heard very mixed reviews on it. I really loved Fourth Wing. I thought the dragons and the school, all of it was just so much fun, very cool, and I really want to continue and love this one. I've just heard that so many people were disappointed. With that being said, I know I might not love it, but I think I'm definitely going to enjoy myself a lot while I'm reading it. So really one day I just have to force myself to pick it up because I feel like once I start and get into it, I feel like I'm going to enjoy it and be glad that I finally picked it up. And if I don't do it by the end of the year, I'm going to be so upset with myself. I've been talking for so long and we are still only on the 24 books, but I only have 2 left. First of which is A Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab. This is another first book in a fantasy series that I really want to start. From what I've read so far, I really love V.E. Schwab's writing and I've just heard really good things about this series. It takes place in London, but there's actually 3 alternate versions of London. So there's the black, red, and white London. So you've got this multiverse kind of thing going on, and then there's people who I think are called travelers who can go between the different versions of London. It sounds really interesting to me, and I just know that if her writing is similar to the other books I've read, that I'm going to like it. And last book from my 24 books to read in 2024, say it with me, another first book in a fantasy series that I haven't started yet. Technically, I think this one's actually sci-fi and not fantasy, but still, I feel like there was a very obvious theme when I was putting together the 24 books, and I don't know why I picked so many books that were the first one in a series. It's like I was setting myself up to fail, but it's probably just because I am so attracted to series. I love them, and I feel like all the best books are in series. And this one, I have not heard many people talk about, but the people who have raved about it. They had amazing things to say. I've heard that this is kind of like a young adult version of the show The Boys, where there are superheroes who are kind of corrupt and there is a group of people who are trying to stand up or fight back against the superheroes. I could be a little bit off, but I want to go into this one as blind as possible, so I don't want to know any more than that. But I love the show The Boys. I think it's such a great concept and I've just heard that this is done so well, so I'm very excited to get to it. Okay, so that's how I'm feeling about all the books that I decided at the beginning of the year that I wanted to read. So now we'll move on to the books that I currently really want to read. Some of these have been living in my brain rent-free and I just really cannot stop thinking about them, and I really need to read them soon. First, let's go through all the series that I really want to either finish or continue before the end of the year. First is the Chestnut Spring series by Elsie Silver. I currently have only read the first one, which is flawless, and I don't have a copy of the next one, but I have it downloaded on my Kindle, and that one is called Heartless. These are just fun cowboy romances, and I've really been wanting to continue the series. One of my friends is totally obsessed with it, and she talks about it all the time. We were talking about it at the Ashley Poston thing, and it just really reignited my want to continue this series. I also need to read volume 2 of Heartstopper, which was just so cute. I had such a good time reading this. Oh my goodness, I just spoiled something for myself. Anyways, if you are not familiar, this is a graphic novel, so it does not take me very long to get through these, so I actually would really love to finish the whole series by the end of the year. I think there are currently 5 volumes out, and I don't know if it's finished or if there's gonna be more, but it's easily something that I could knock out by the end of the year and that I want to because it's just so dang cute. Next is City of Glass by Cassandra Clare, which is book 3 in the Mortal Instrument series. This is part of her much bigger universe series, whatever you want to call it, which is the Shadowhunters. I actually have a page in my book journal just for completing her entire backlist. There are a lot of books to get through, and there's actually a couple different orders that people suggest reading the books in. The one that I picked is the one that I feel like most people go with, and in that one you read the first 3 books in the Mortal Instruments, then the 3 Infernal Devices books, and then the last 3 books in the Mortal Instruments. So when I finish this, I won't actually be completing the series, but it's kind of gonna feel like I completed a series. I don't know if what I'm saying makes sense at all, but in my head I'm thinking of it as like a 3-book series, another 3-book series, and then another 3-book series. So I really want to get to this one soon, because once I do, I'll feel like I've checked off one of the mini-series within the Shadowhunters universe. It's gonna feel like a nice accomplishment. I have just 1 book left in the A Good Girl's Guide to Murder series, which is As Good as Dead. It's a young adult murder mystery series that is not my absolute favorite thing in the entire world, but it's very entertaining, and I would love to finish this one and just cross it off my list. I've heard that this one gets a little bit darker than the rest of the series, but I've also heard that it's just really good. I still cannot believe that I have not read the 3rd book in the Akatar series yet. In my head, this is a priority series for me, but I definitely have not been treating it like that because it's been months since I read the 2nd book. And so far, I have really enjoyed the first 2 books, and I said a million times that I feel like this one is going to be my favorite, yet I still have not picked it up. Purely, I think, just because it's quite long and I haven't had the time where I felt like I wanted to dedicate myself to this book. Iron Gold by Pierce Brown is book 4 in the Red Rising series, which has quickly become one of my favorite series of all time. I read the 2nd and 3rd books within the last couple of months, so I've definitely been a lot better at reading this one more consistently. So I definitely want to keep that up and continue reading, because I know I have at least 2 more after this book. So I am nowhere near finished, but honestly that is totally fine with me because I would love to have more books in this series. Red Rising is a sci-fi series that I highly recommend to people who are wanting to get into sci-fi but are maybe a little bit intimidated, because I feel like it's just such a fast-paced, entertaining series with really great characters, and I feel like if you aren't into sci-fi, you still would really enjoy this. Last series to continue is The Crowns of Nyaxia, and the 3rd book is The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King. This is a vampire fantasy series that I've really enjoyed so far, so I would love to complete it soon. I just read the novella last month and it was really good, and it got me really excited to go back into this world. I didn't really mean to split this video into harsh categories, but these are just the ones that are not part of a series that I'm currently in the middle of, and they're also not part of my 24 books to read in 2024. So they're basically just everything else that I have my eye on that I really want to read. First is The Last Word by Taylor Adams, which is a mystery thriller about somebody who is reading books, gives one a 1-star review, and then the author is coming after her. I have heard amazing things about this, and as a reader, it just sounds like a really interesting plot and very unique. And I feel like I just haven't read a whole lot of thrillers this year because they just haven't been intriguing me as much as they normally do. But this is one of the ones that is really tugging on me. Like, I really want to read this right now. This is a book that I just picked up recently, which is Summer Romance by Annabelle Monaghan. Last month I read Nora Goes Off Script by her and I really enjoyed it, so I wanted to read more from her. And I think this is her newest release. I've heard people raving about it, and obviously it takes place over the summertime, so I really want to get to this one before summer is over. I have zero idea what this book is about, but I actually might just go into it totally blind, not reading anything, just going into it and seeing what happens, because I feel like that could be kind of fun. And I feel like based on her last book, I'm just gonna have a really great time. Another Ashley Poston book, we have her newest release, which is a novel love story. This is the one that I went with my friend to the signing slash book event. I don't know what it's called. And just going to that event and hearing her talk about it made me really want to pick this up sometime soon. And it just sounds like a really cute concept. It's about this woman who is an author or an editor. I don't know. She just really loves books, but one day she ends up getting stuck in the setting of her favorite novel. And from what I've heard, the romance in this one is not super heavy. It's more so just a general fiction. And it sounds like a very cute, just kind of lighthearted and fun book. She did say that this one is a lot lighter and just happier than her other 2 books, so I'm hoping this is not a sad book, but I guess we'll see when I get into it. This one's kind of random, but I want to get to Icebreaker in the winter. I feel like I had this book last winter and I just never picked it up, so it's been here for at least a year. And this book has already had its moment. It has come and gone, and I think she's on book 3 of this series already, so I'm very behind. It's just a cute hockey romance that a lot of people love, and I want to see if I enjoy it as much as everyone else. And frankly, I'm tired of it sitting on my shelves and me not having read it yet. Another book that I'm saving for the winter is Bear Town by Frederick Bachman. This is 100% inspired by my bestie Mick. She loves this series and has talked about it so much. I think they are like 6-star reads for her. She loves them and she has really convinced me to read them, but I am specifically saving them for the winter time because they take place in the winter in a small town that I think revolves around ice hockey, so it just seems like it would be much better to read when it's cold outside than to read like right now in the summer. One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig. Oh my gosh, how have I not read this yet? This book was also blowing up when it came out, and the second book is already out. So again, like I am so behind. This is a fantasy book that I've heard nothing but amazing reviews, and I have been so excited to read it ever since I heard about it, but I just never got to it. I think I bought it a couple of months ago, and it's another one where I just feel guilty starting a new series when I'm in the middle of so many. But this one's only a duology, so when I started, it's not like I'm committing that much. I have not been saving this one for a particular time, but I also feel like since it's kind of moody and dark, it would also be really great in the fall or the winter. Next is House of Hollow by Crystal Sutherland, and this is another one that I've had for so long. I've definitely had this for over a year, and I've just always wanted to read it, but then never picked it up. I think I just have too many books that I'm really excited for, and I just wish that I read faster so I could get to them all quicker. Anyways, this is a young adult thriller, and I think it's also more of a horror, which is very intriguing to me. I have not read very much horror, but I am wanting to kind of dip my toes into it. I think it's about two sisters who go missing and then they come back, but then something's kind of off about them. Yeah. Ooh, it's in Scotland, and the two girls disappear and then they return a month later with no memory of where they've been or what happened to them. And I've just heard really good things about this one, and then also this author's newest book, but I won't let myself read that one until I get to this one. So maybe if I'm wanting a spooky kind of scary book, I'll pick it up, or I might save it for the fall, October time. Okay, last book. I know I've been talking for so long, but the last one is The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. This came out years ago. Yeah, 2018. So this has been around for a really long time, and it has such a strong following. People are obsessed with this series, and I just feel like the last person on earth to read it. All I know is that it's a young adult fantasy, and I think it's about these girls who end up getting taken from the human world and put into a fairy world. Besides that, all I know is that there is a very, very minor subplot of romance that people die for. They say not to go in expecting a whole lot of romance because it's just crumbs, but that it's so good when you do get it. And that honestly sounds really, really good. Ever since I kind of set my eyes on this, I have had a plan to try and read all three of them for some sort of reading vlog, but I just don't know when I'm gonna do that. Maybe in the fall time, because I feel like that's a good setting for this type of fantasy, but I'm not sure. I just know that I really, really want to get to this so bad. I think I read the first chapter when I first picked it up, and I really enjoyed it and wanted to continue reading it, but I had to stop myself. Oh my gosh, I need some water. That was quite the list. I have a ton of books behind me. Talking about all of these has just gotten me even more excited to read all of them. Do I think it's possible for me to read all these books in the next 5.5 months? Yes, but do I think it will really happen? Probably not all of them. I read over 40 books in the first half of the year, and this is definitely less than 40 books. So it should be possible, but I'm just gonna have to have the discipline to really make sure that I'm reading from this list. But I do hate to break it to you and myself, but I have a bunch of other books that I'm looking at that I also really wanna read, so I know I'm not gonna just read these. But it was really fun to pick out all these books and just kind of mentally prioritize which ones I want to get to by the end of the year. Because I don't know about you, but I am constantly buying new books, daydreaming about all the books that I want to read, and I feel like a lot of times the books that I want to read are taking up even more brain space than, say, the books that I'm currently reading or my favorite books. I'm just always thinking about what I want to read next. So this was really fun. Let me know if you want to see reading vlogs for any of the books that I've talked about, and also let me know which books that you really want to get to by the end of the year. I love to hear what's on other people's radars. But that is everything. I've already made this outro way longer than it should have been. As always, thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed, and I will see you soon. Bye!